Hi, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Brigida Toruño, and welcome to Uno Sol's Chat. Today, I am so honored to be chatting with Father Daniel Rivera, an Uno Sol. He is the Vicar of St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church, Sacerdote Vicario de la Iglesia San Gabriel. Welcome, Father Daniel. Bienvenido.
Gracias, Brigida. Thank you so much. An honor to be here.
Thank you. I am so thrilled to be chatting with you during this time. And I'd love to just start by asking, how have you been doing as we're emerging from this surreal year of the pandemic?
With caution, because we have a lot of news from trusted sources, including the community of social services providers and human services providers, and even in our county, of which San Gabriel and St. Gabriel's is part of. And I hear from the director of public health every 2 weeks how we're doing. And as many people know, the Delta variant is present in Loudoun County. People are getting sick, and the number of folks that are getting infected are primarily people that have not been vaccinated. So when I say cautiously and slowly, San Gabriel, St. Gabriel's are going back into the buildings to worship.
Yes. But
we are following some strict protocols of safety. Everyone is masked because we don't know who's vaccinated and who's not. Singers have to be masked even though they're singing. And we don't share a common cup. We give out consecrated wine in little glasses so that people can be safe. There are many different protocols. We don't have a Sunday school because we can't have little children exposed to each other and adults yet in the inside places where we worship. So cautiously and praying that the Delta variant won't be as disastrous as COVID was in this past year.
That's right. Yes. Thank you for explaining that. And I think that it's brand new, right, for St. Gabriel's as well as many other faith communities to start inviting people into the church. And I'm so glad to hear that you're taking all the precautions necessary. So, yeah, that's good.
We have to protect each other, and we also have to continue to relay the message that people should be vaccinated.
Yes,
I agree. Practice, and it's a public health practice. I protect myself, I protect my family, I protect you.
Yes.
We protect one another.
And you've mentioned to me that St. Gabriel's had a forum with a doctor from NIH who was explaining vaccines, and it sounds like an incredible recording that you have on your Facebook page, which I really want to go and listen to it. But can you tell us a little about that?
Yes. So we have a community education arm as part of our outreach ministry at San Gabriel, St. Gabriel's. And that community outreach, it's sort of a community education groups for multi-generational people. So we have something called Educando con Amor, educating with love. And that program has been traditionally ESL for adults, GED classes for adults. We did a whole series on using Parent View for parents who had children in Loudoun County public schools. Our children's section of that is helping children become fully bilingual.
I love this program.
Yeah, so that the children can learn how to read and write, who are from Spanish-speaking parents, how to read and write in Spanish because they're reading and writing in English. They speak Spanish, but to be fully bilingual, you have to have cultural literacy, and that you get through family, friends, and context. But also reading, writing, understanding, and speaking is fully bilingual literacy. So we focus on that as well as STEM classes for children and teens. So out of all of this community education program, which we've been doing for 4 or 5 years now, we decided in COVID to host Doctora Elena Hernandez, who works for the NIH, to provide an accessible forum en español for families and individuals who may not have a trusted source of information about what the virus is and how you combat it. And she did a wonderful presentation, understood by people of any educational level, and it was interactive. People were able to ask questions. So you could look on St. Gabriel's Facebook page and you go down through the videos and you'll see La Doctora Hernandez and the presentation. I could also send you the link if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you very much.
Spreading the good news.
Yes.
And
yes,
spiritual health is part of the overall health of a community. So when we come to health, as in physical health, education is public health, spiritual health is part of it all.
That's right. That's right. Yes, thank you very much. And speaking of community service and health, I feel that you are just the epitome of a person who just gives from the heart and gives and gives and gives to this community. So thank you so much. You know, I just really see you as a beacon of light in our community, and I'm so grateful for everything that you've done, that you have always done, but especially this last year and a half.
Thank you for that. But I will also say that one of the foundations of our spirituality as a community of faith, as a church, and part of the Episcopal Church's, focus is that we don't do it alone. Jesus sent his disciples 2 by 2. And so we help empower our community, all members of the community, from children to older adults, to do the work. So it's not one person doing the work. It's not just our church doing the work. We always partner with other congregations. Like during the pandemic, we partnered with St. David's Episcopal Church in Ashburn and St. James Episcopal Church in Leesburg to do our food ministry program. And that included, I call it the Uber Eats of Loudoun Hunger Relief, one of our community partners. They provided the food, Loudoun Hunger Relief, in the bags that they gave. And we supplemented those bags with sort of Latino products, maybe diapers. And then our deacon, Holly, had 24 volunteers and served up to 85 families a week, bringing groceries of food up and down apartments. We had people baking bread, baking goods. It takes a village for real. And it was a beautiful ministry for people that didn't have transportation. So people who couldn't get to the pantry, they're the ones that were served because they were the most vulnerable.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I think that our Loudoun community is just so blessed, really so blessed to have you and St. Gabriel's here in the community. And, we have a lot of amazing organizations here, nonprofits with beautiful hearts and kindness. And so everybody really did all they could through COVID. And I think it's made a difference. It's made a difference in the survival of the community.
It has. And one of the things that I do personally is ensure that I know what those community resources are. And I strive to figure out ways that St. Gabriel San Gabriel can partner with those resources, with those community agencies, so that the word is even further sort of, known. The word is further distributed. It's further shared exponentially. When you think we have maybe 400 more families that could know about, UNO translations. Let's use that as an example. So we share that information through wonderful social media and other ways, right?
Yeah.
And so that has been instrumental in us being able to assist, again, the most affected by COVID in this past 16 months.
Yeah.
Partnerships. In the same way that the Gospels in the Christian tradition say Jesus sent his disciples 2 by 2, I feel that Jesus is reminding me, make sure you partner with these other organizations. Go out 2 by 2. Don't try to do anything alone, because you will not be as effective.
Right. And I think that, I think mental health is a big component of everything that that COVID and the pandemic affected, right? I mean, there's of course the physical health that can be impacted, but the mental health of all of us, I mean, just as a global community, I think we all felt the impact. For me, originally, I felt fear and, what does this mean for my health physically? What does it mean for my business? And, and I think that, the fact that, you continued the Zoom church every Sunday, and so everybody knew they could hear your words of comfort and hope. I think that was a huge thing, but I know for sure that you must have gone again above and beyond and helping even in that area.
Well, it's our ministry, it's our mission, and it's what I do, and I love what I do. I love being a parish priest. I didn't start my life as a priest, as many other folks may have. I'm an engineer. I worked in high tech for 20 years of my life, and I didn't go to seminary until I was 40. So I was one of what they call the late bloomers.
Oh, and yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear your story if you're open to sharing that with us. We would love to hear it.
Sure. I mean, I came to the Episcopal Church because my spouse invited me when we met, 27 years ago. And he said, I'm Episcopalian, and would you like to come to my church? And I knew the Episcopal Church. My mother worked for the Episcopal Church in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
As a Roman Catholic, not as an Episcopalian, but she was the office manager for a home care and hospice part of the Episcopal Church. It's a big industry in the Puerto Rican Episcopal Church. So I knew the Episcopal Church, came into the Episcopal Church, and I wanted to be a priest when I was 7 years old, and so that was sort of part of who I had been shaped to be. Was always and have always been very religious and church going until I formally entered the Episcopal Church as a member, as an adult, and then my priest invited me to consider being a priest. And that invitation, it's part of my ministry today. Everyone should be asked, should be invited, not forced, not arm twisted, not say you have to, or that you're going to hell if you don't. That doesn't work.
Right.
What works is an invitation. Have you ever considered being a priest? Was the words of my priest. And I said, as a matter of fact, yes, I wanted to be a priest when I was 7 years old. And he was shocked. I don't think he expected that. And so here I am. When I was 40, I went to seminary. It's 5 years of training and then 3 years of, in sort of an apprenticeship in a church under the supervision of a priest. And I studied social work and divinity, theology. And so I have used those together in the ministry of the people that I do.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Yeah. And when did you come to Loudoun County?
8.5 years ago.
And did you come to start St. Gabriel's?
No. So St. Gabriel's was started 18 years ago. My predecessor, the Reverend Janae Cunningham, she started the church. She planted the church, as we say in sort of church lingo. And it is a mission or a daughter church of St. James in Leesburg. And St. James, being one of the oldest churches in the community, in the county, then had launched other churches, and St. Gabriel's then is the most recent one. I came to bring St. Gabriel's that had been planted and started by someone else to a second level, to a new level, and that included starting a Latino Hispanic ministry, or we were, as I like to say, St. Gabriel's is authentically inclusive of all people, no matter what your spiritual background or no background, faith background has been. And we worship God actually in 3 languages, in English, in Spanish, and as I like to say, in Spanglish. Some of our children and teens speak Spanglish, and we we can talk en español or in English in the same sentence, and we do that at St. Gabriel San Gabriel.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Spanglish is, Spanish was my first language, and so I speak Spanish, but I am familiar with Spanglish.
Right.
I think we all
We
are.
all are.
We all are. Yeah, in the United States.
Indeed.
Yeah, yeah. I have a quote from Herman Melville, who said, "We cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow men." And so that, that reminds me of what you're saying, right? That it takes a village,
Yep.
right, to help others, and in the end, we're one humanity.
We are.
We're one humanity.
And whatever affects one person in our society affects everyone else. People don't kind of buy into that universally, but that is also it's a theological framework as well, because we are created by God, the creator of all. We all have that, in my opinion. I would say we all have the DNA of the creator, the source, the root. And so whatever affects one person by DNA affects the society. If someone is hungry and we can help somehow, we are all impacted by that, because the person who receives actually gives to the person who gives, just by receiving and just by their gratitude. So many people have thanked me personally in St. Gabriel San Gabriel, and our county and our town and our state for the COVID-related emergency rental assistance funding that they received.
Can you tell us about that, please?
Sure. I mean, to finish what I was saying,
Yeah.
They say, "God bless you. Thank you so much." Like, thank God for the fact that we have a county and a town and a state that have given the funding, and St. Gabriel's, yes, has been the vehicle. We partner, as I started saying earlier, with INMED Partnerships for Children. They have 2 employees that work part-time for St. Gabriel's, but are paid for by county funds.
Nice.
Because I need help in order to give this kind of rental assistance. It's been very, very, it's been huge. St. Gabriel's is now given about $790,000 in COVID-related emergency rental assistance. And that started because the Roman Catholic Charities, although we're Episcopalian, reached out to us and said, "Can you help us distribute funding to the most vulnerable community around you? And we know you have a Latino ministry." And I said, "Sure, we can do that." And I never realized how huge it was going to be and the impact it would have on thousands of people's lives. It has been challenging because people have lived, you started saying earlier, how COVID has affected us deeply. It has traumatized so many families because they didn't have basic needs. The shelter was affected, the food was affected, impacted, isolation, so they were risking having a roof over their heads and were isolated during COVID, illness. All of these factors created what I consider a systemic trauma.
Yes.
And not only in our county, in the world, right?
Yeah.
And I heard those stories of the thousands of people that we help with financial assistance for rental assistance. Every person had a story. It had a pretty heavy impact on me personally.
Oh, I'm sure.
I prayed probably more than ever. I sought the help of my bishop, of fellow priests. I have a spiritual director, and I did have to go into short-term therapy because I felt like I was every day being traumatized by the stories.
Yeah.
So many, I don't have food for my children, and I'm risking being evicted. I need your help. And people crying, men and women crying on the phone.
Yeah.
And
the vivid suffering, right? Vivid. Palpable.
30 or 40 people a day, palpable. 30 or 40 people a day for a year and a half. has an impact on your soul.
Of course.
And I feel that my priesthood has never been more fully lived. I have never been so much of a priest in my vocational call as in this last year and a half. You would think that the priest's life is what you have behind me. This is the altar behind me from which St. Gabriel San Gabriel has had worship services every week and in the weekdays and prayer services for the last 16 months.
Wow.
But
This
that's
is what the parishioners were seeing.
this is what they were seeing, what you're
Okay, nice. Yeah.
But worship is a fragment of what we are called to do in the name of Jesus Christ as Christians. The other big portion is serving the other, this Ubuntu, this, I am better if I help someone, and as a community, what affects you affects us all. That took a lot of my life in the year and a half that has passed.
Yeah.
And I did it with the conviction that I needed help and got help, with the conviction that many people would be helped, and they were. And so many volunteers, so many people from all walks of life, with money, with no money, immigrants, undocumented, documented people, everyone said, I want to help. I can drive a car. Can I drive a car and bring food one week, or, help you maybe to deliver, and God manifested God's self in such beautiful ways in this most horrendous, and traumatic time in history. I believe that in our life, in my life, this was a traumatic time in the history.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for explaining that so poignantly and beautifully, to point out, the suffering that occurred here in this community, that there were people that needed help in so many areas of their life, and that you were able to pull together, a wonderful community of volunteers, in addition to the partners who were providing the funds and the food. I think that that's just such an amazing story, and thank you. I'm so grateful for everything that again you and the community that you've created have been able to do.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I have become more aware in this last year and a half of the immense poverty that exists in the richest county of the United States, Loudoun County.
Yeah.
And your salary and my salary were not affected by COVID. I got paid.
Right.
Every 2 weeks I got paid. In the Episcopal Church, the clergy are paid employees of the church in our vocation, and it was not impacted. But the people who clean homes, the people who work in restaurants, the people who do all the landscaping, the people who take care of children, the people who paint homes, the people who work in all of the service industry, clean office spaces, they not only were their hours reduced, they didn't get paid.
That's right.
And most of those individuals, as I've come to learn, are undocumented people, and they pay. I have a Excel spreadsheet of what everyone pays. People rent a bedroom in someone else's apartment or home for $500, $600, $700 a month. They rent a basement for $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month, and if you have the opportunity to be able to lease an apartment, it starts at $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 for two bedrooms in Loudoun County. Very expensive.
Very expensive, yeah. And everybody is, everybody deserves to have the necessities, the basic necessities. Everybody deserves, no matter where they are, from what walk of life or what their papers say, And Maya Angelou has a really good quote that says, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry."
Amen.
And we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color. And I just think that that's so true. The tapestry, right? That the beauty of people from all walks of life, from all different countries, from all the different languages that are spoken. That's the beauty.
So I, to follow up on that, I use that kind of language when I describe who and what St. Gabriel's is. We describe ourselves as being authentically inclusive. I describe that to mean that we don't just welcome people into our church. We don't even have a church building. We don't have our own church building. Our English language service is at the Belmont Ridge Middle School at 10 o'clock on Sundays, and at 3 o'clock in Spanish at St. James Episcopal Church in Leesburg. But when people come, they're not just welcome to come, they're integrated. And I use knitting needles as my image. I'm a very sort of visual learner kind of person. And
yeah, me too.
We have knitted you now into this fabric of San Gabriel, St. Gabriel's.
Oh, I love that.
And whatever color thread you bring, it is part of now this piece. So we don't just welcome people, we integrate. Your child who might live with autism can be a lay reader at St. Gabriel's. A person who, would not otherwise want to be on a board sits on the board of St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church. We have a church board that in this time is made up of 50% of our English speakers and 50% of our Spanish speakers, because we integrate you into this fabric that is our parish family.
That's wonderful, Father Daniel. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what can we do for you? What can we do for La Iglesia San Gabriel?
I always say that if you're a person of prayer, that you pray for us. Pray for St. Gabriel San Gabriel, because prayer works. And I believed that before I was a priest.
Yeah.
So prayer works. We just have to, we invoke, the ears and if we want to humanize God, the ears of God, the soul of God, and our prayers that come together work. And so pray for us to continue to be able to do the ministry in the community that we do. One of the hardest things I think for any nonprofit is how do we market what we are and who we are? And how do you market God? If you want to use that business language, and I come from a business background, how do you tell this incredible story that St. Gabriel's is to people who don't know it?
Yes.
And so I would love to find a mechanism for more people just to find out this treasure that this community of faith, St. Gabriel's, is a community that doesn't put up barriers or have conditions for the faithful to be part of her. Quite the contrary. All are welcome. And we don't say, no, if you're divorced or you're homosexual or you're transgender or you're poor or you're undocumented, you're not welcome to the table of God. Quite the contrary. All are welcome to God's table, because it's not my table. It's not the table of the Episcopal Church. The table is God's table. It's Christ's table. And so we invite everyone to be part of it. So marketing God through St. Gabriel's is a challenge for me personally, for our board, who's always trying to figure out how do we, particularly for English speakers, when you think from Leesburg, any faith tradition that you could think of, you can go to a temple, a church of every flavor of every religion within a 20-mile radius from Leesburg. You can find it because we're that close to Washington, D.C. But when you're Latino, you don't have those options, which is one of the reasons why our Spanish language ministry has grown so quickly in such a short amount of time, not having our own worship space. And our English language ministry hasn't developed as quickly because there's not an identity of place, a place we say, that's St. Gabriel's. Belmont Ridge Middle School is not St. Gabriel's, and it's up in the middle of nowhere, as a place of worship. So one of the things that we also want to get out to the people is what kind of service ministries, projects for other people can we do that would be of interest to you, whether you're a person of faith or not? And we'd like to engage that, because that way you can have an outlet where you can serve people, whether you're affiliated to the church or not, but you become affiliated to the people in your community.
I just love everything that you said, and it really brings tears to my eyes, because of the mission that you have with St. Gabriel, that it is God's table. And I think, it's that to me is the message, where it's all encompassing of everybody, including everybody. And that is so special. It's so special. And we're, again, so lucky to have you here in Loudoun County. Thank you. I was wondering if possibly you could leave us with words of wisdom, or perhaps a blessing, whatever you're called to leave us with.
Well, I could do a little bit of both. And
Okay.
I guess if I were to leave a word of wisdom is, don't forget your neighbor. That we make an effort, and sometimes in our English American society, we value privacy maybe too much, and independence maybe too much. If you have a neighbor that you have a relationship with, why not invite them to the place that you get so much joy out of? In my case, I would say bring them to church or to a picnic that you are having, and get to know them and let them get to know you. I think we need to break down those walls of, this privacy, and lift ourselves up alone by our bootstraps. It does take a village to make a difference in the world. And then my blessing would be that God Almighty reign and just be felt, and that the Blessed Virgin Mary, who is the mother of all, you feel that wrap. I have this image of like a sarape, a shawl, that shawl of love. Allow yourself to be enveloped by that love of our Creator, and all it takes is to say yes. I welcome that. Welcome that love.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Father Daniel. I mean, I feel so honored that you have chatted with me, and our listeners. I know they're just going to enjoy so much having heard all of your words of wisdom. And this continues to be a powerful time to love each other, to unite, and to live in peace.
Amen.
So thank you so much. I honor the light in you.
Thank you, and I am honored to have been invited, Brigida. Muchas gracias por el honor y el placer de estar aquí presente, for the honor and pleasure to have been here with you today.
Thank you. Es mi placer también.
Peace.
Gracias.
Paz.
Thank you so much for listening to Uno Souls Chat. You can find us at www.unosouls.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I would love to hear from you if you would like to chat with me. Have a beautiful week, and see you at the next episode.